Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you guys about kind of a beginner's guide to farming. Now, I was thinking about this recently. If a new player comes into the game, they jump right in, and they want to know where they should spend their energy on specific character bios in the different game modes that you can get bios specifically from. So I'm talking story missions, special missions, and dimension rifts, because those are the three primary ways that you can repetitively farm for very specific bios. I know there are epic quests and other ways to get biometrics, but those are random or tied to one specific character. So I thought it would be good to go over each of those three categories in a little bit more detail and give you guys my thoughts and my opinions on which characters you should focus on in each game mode. So I'm going to give you guys, a few options in each one in case you've already started on some of them or you already have some of them but not others. And I'm going to give my thoughts on why I think you should choose those. So story mode is the first game mode that you're going to get acquainted with when you start up your game, when you start your new account, and you might be, under the impression that characters like Iron Man, Captain America, Vision, Ultron are good. In fact, they're not, at least not for new players. They need a lot of love to be good. They need uniforms, they need tier 2s, they need Uru, obelisks, all this stuff. Basically, I think the best character from the first, few chapters of the story mission is Black Widow. You can get her early on, and what's very good about Black Widow is that even at tier 1, she's a strong speed character. She has a lot of damage on her 5th skill. You can scale that up very naturally with Lightning Obelisk or Lightning Leadership. And the best part about it for new players is that you can get 40 bios of hers per day, which is fantastic. I think that's the most of any character in the game just from story missions. So a first focus for some players will be Black Widow, but if you can get through the story missions pretty quickly, my first pick is actually Black Panther. That's my number one pick. I think Black Panther is arguably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, story mission tier 1 character. So of course there are stronger tier 1 characters like Sharon Rogers, maybe perhaps Loki, but in story missions, I think that Black Panther at tier 1 is the top dog. He has immunity, he has iframes, he has ways to buff his own damage, he has bleed. Top to bottom, he's a fantastic character. I know you can only get 10 bios per day, but if you start chipping away at that 630 bios that you need for 6 stars, hopefully you'll be able to get him, with random luck and some giveaways or some bio selectors a little bit faster. I think that Black Panther is an excellent choice. As well, we mentioned before, Black Widow is another excellent choice. If you have the crystals to save up and invest in a uniform, I think Iron Fist is another fantastic choice with his new uniform. That does give you 2 combat and 1 speed, which is a bit imbalanced. But in general, and it's a bit interesting, I noticed there are no good or very few good blast characters in story missions and special missions. Very, very few. And there's really nothing we can do about that. But we can get 2 very good tier 1 combat characters from the story mode in both Black Panther and Iron Fist. Black Panther doesn't require his uniform. Iron Fist does to unlock his full potential, but they're both very strong even at tier 1. They're definitely world boss capable. They're definitely alliance battle capable, so they're very flexible. A couple of other choices to round out the story missions if you have extra energy. I really like Green Goblin because he's a villain. He's a super villain. He will help you out in Shadowlands, and you have 30 bios per day to get him. He's got some iframes, and again, you can scale that poison damage with obelisks. Very easy for new players to get decent damage out of a character just with a few, a bit of gold investment, a bit of time investment. Another good one that you're going to get a little bit later on because a lot of his bios are gated behind some later missions is Thor. I think Thor's a pretty decent universal hero until you have better options. Again, lightning damage scales very easily. He's got lots of AoE. He's got a guard hit. He probably needs his uniform, so I don't rate Thor as highly as the others, but it's something to think about. The last one I think would be Elektra if you don't want to invest in Black Widow. Elektra has 30 bios per day, which is fantastic. She's got lots of iframes. I think Elektra takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more finesse to play than Black Widow, but I think you will get similar results at tier 1 from both of those characters, so you can choose based on what you prefer more, and she doesn't require her uniform to be powerful. Now that wraps up story missions, but we still have special missions. Now you only get one of these runs per day, and there are a few differences in the game modes between New Avengers and Inhumans, so I want to talk about which one I think you should go for. I think the very first character from both of these lists, the strongest character from both of these lists at tier 1 is Crystal. Crystal has guard, Crystal has good DPS and scalable DPS with elemental damage. Crystal has a lot of crowd control effects, so what that means is that her skills will bind or stop or freeze or stun opponents very frequently, so she's an excellent addition to basically any Shadowland stage because she's female, because she's a hero, because she's blast. So she has a very fantastic skill set, and it's not that difficult for new players to get accustomed to. She's very powerful at tier 1. You can clear into the teens of Shadowland with her. You can kill world bosses with her. So I think that she is your number one go-to, your first choice for special missions. After Crystal, it gets a little bit hazy. I think every character kind of drops off from that point at tier 1. I think some good picks, because I don't like any of the other characters from the Inhumans missions, and you don't really need to start farming the Inhuman missions for Dormammu, because if you're a new player, you're very far away from having any of the requisite materials for him. The gold, the black antimatter, like, there's so much missing for you. So don't worry about the Dormammu hidden routes. I think it's better to go back to the new missions and focus on some of these characters. Now, I say that for two reasons. For one, I think White Tiger and Wiccan are two very good characters from this list. I hesitate to put Songbird in because she needs a lot of help against world bosses, but Songbird is great in Shadowlands, I can't deny that. I think Wiccan for his leadership and his damage, and then White Tiger for the immunity are both very good choices for your second or third farming character from special missions, because you, as a new player, you want to just focus on one and get them to 6 stars as fast as possible so you can unlock them for world boss, so that you can have them as a consistent player. You don't want to stop at 4 or 5 stars like with the Doctor Strange characters. You want to get to that peak. So I think both White Tiger and Wiccan are very good choices. Additionally, the second reason why I recommend the New Avengers special missions after Crystal is because you get Gwenpool bios, and I think Gwenpool is a very strong character. I do also think Inferno is a strong character, but given the the lack of speed characters, but also given the lack of blast characters, you may want to consider what you get. I think you'll get more out of Gwenpool, Wiccan, and White Tiger than Inferno and 2 other characters from this list. Moon Girl needs a lot of love to be good, although she has a dinosaur with her. Maximus, again, needs a lot of love. Gorgon is mostly just for the leadership, and Karnak needs his uniform, again, needs a lot of love. So there's really no standout here to justify going for Inferno, despite the fact that Inferno is a very strong character. If you guys don't know, Inferno and, thank you for the Dimension Rift, hun. Inferno and Gwenpool are 2 kind of soft paywall characters. You cannot get their bios from any kind of farming except randomly. So as you can see here, she's an ally shifter, so she will appear randomly in the New Avengers special missions. Gwenpool is an excellent speed character, very high DPS, lots of iframes at tier 1, and she self-heals. So she's great for new players, very easy to handle. On the other hand, Inferno may be a little bit more difficult for new players to get accustomed to using, but Inferno is also a very strong character. You can scale his damage very easily with fire. He has many ways to boost his own damage, and he has a guard hit as well. So there's lots of ways that you can turn him into a beast very, very quickly. He doesn't have the healing, but that's basically all he's missing. He also has some fire immunity that makes him potentially good in PvP situations against the likes of Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, Dormammu, Red Hulk, etc. But I think between the two, Gwenpool is an easier first choice or an easier fit for new players, and Wiccan and White Tiger justify that investment more, so I think you should go for those. As far as Dimension Rifts, the first thing I want to let you know as a new player is that you should try to get people on your list who have spent money on the game. You can note how much they've spent based on their Dimension Rifts. As you can see, Cruzito216 has a Heroic Rift. That means he spent quite a bit of money on the game, similar to how much I've spent. On the other hand, Melendez and Hun Fesk have not spent as much. So you want to find people who at least have, I would say, aim for Heroic. There's quite a lot of people that have spent that much money on the game. It's not that hard to find them. And you want them to open the following rifts. I think Loki is the best rift to go for as a new player. Loki is a fantastic villain character, so that's 1+, and he's universal, and his skill set is very easy for new players to get accustomed to. It's just one skill, another skill, and then you kite around. So 2 skills plus kite, very easy. Once you've gotten Loki, I think the next best character from this list for new players would be Yellowjacket. Yellowjacket is fantastic against world bosses. He's also a super villain, which helps you out in Shadowland stages. And he's Blast, because if you notice, there's not a lot of Blast characters that I can mention from story mode. And then from the special missions, we did get both Crystal and Wiccan, but we're still kind of missing. So to balance it out and to balance out your typings, thank you for the Dimension Rift. I think Yellowjacket would be a fantastic choice. A couple of other good choices that you could argue for, you know, Ronan and Yondu are good, and, you know, Wasp is good as well, but I think you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of Yellowjacket initially. Keep in mind there are other ways to farm for bios, but it is a little bit more random, like World Boss Invasion. Definitely do all of your villain sieges to get those Kate Bishop bios because she's very powerful. As well, guys, you will be able to farm for characters in the Doctor Strange quest, Mordo, Wong, Ancient One, Caecilius, and then either Satana or Hellstorm. And then Clea as a random shifter. Clea as a random shifter is the same as Gwenpool and Inferno. You cannot get her bios unless you get her as a random shifter, although it's very, very slow for her these days. The last way that you can use or collect characters' bios to level them up and rank them up would be from bio selectors, which are these green and white heads that you will see. You can get them from Shadowlands if you complete the first 5, 10, or 15 stages, and you'll get them from login bonus events that we have both as the monthly bonus and sometimes as a 7-day bonus. So as you can see here, we have a 40 selector there, and we have a 40 selector there, and sometimes we get random gifts of more than that. So these bio selectors are going to open up the amount of characters that you can actually farm for. It's not consistent farming, but as you can see here, there are lots of characters that don't appear in special missions, story missions, dimension rifts, or anything like that you can get bios for consistently if you can get the bio selectors consistently, like for example from Shadowland. So there's a lot of characters, of course, to choose from this list. It's not an exhaustive list. There are still many characters missing, but it is good to have a point of reference for who you should spend bios on in this category. Of course, the number one has to be Sharon Rogers, but I'm assuming that Sharon Rogers is your first character that you select in the game. So assuming that you've already selected the giant robo bitch, you want to then go for one of the following characters. And it really depends on whether you want to play the game just more for fun or more in a flavorful way, or if you want to be competitive. If you want to be competitive, your next choice has to be Moon Knight, just for his flexibility, alongside someone like Iron Fist. But some other great options, especially if you like the Inhumans, you're watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're waiting for that new Inhumans TV show, you need some more world boss killers. Medusa is a fantastic character. She buffs herself up with her own leadership, and she does great damage to single targets. Another good option in the Universal Hero class is Robbie Reyes. A lot of people really like him from the Netflix or from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, and he's very, very strong and easy for new players to get accustomed to, so I would recommend him. Another good choice with his uniform is Red Hulk. Fantastic character, heals himself, has immunity, only with his uniform, however. The last selection I would make would just be any of the Doctor Strange characters that you can select. So you can't select Satana, but you can select Hellstorm, and then you can select any of the characters from the memory missions. So you have 5 out of 7 characters to choose from. If you want to speed up the Doctor Strange quest and you already have your 5 out of 5 world boss characters for every day except Infinity Thanos, then by all means try to speed this up, because as we all know, the answer to every question is Doctor Strange. So let me know what you guys think of my list of characters that you should select from the 3 primary farming locations plus the bio selector situation. Let me know what you guys think as far as like a new player's guide and a new player's directionality to farming and who they should invest in, if I missed anyone or if I over or undervalued anyone. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.